In 1956, the Hungarian government declared him a traitor. FIFA banned him from football entirely. He was 29 years old, overweight, and had not played competitive football in nearly 2 years. Every door seemed closed. Every opportunity seemed gone. The career that had made him the most feared striker in the world appeared to be over before he had even reached his peak. Most people assumed he was finished. 2 years later, he walked into Real Madrid and scored 242 goals in 262 appearances. He won 5 league titles. He won 3 European Cups. He scored 4 goals in what many historians still call the greatest club match ever played. He had become a legend for the second time in his life, in a second country, in a second language. This is the story of Ferenc Puskás. And it begins not on a football pitch, but in a city preparing for war. Before we continue, please hit like on this video and subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to support this work and make sure you never miss the next legend. Ferenc Puskás was born on April 1, 1927, in Budapest, Hungary. His father was a footballer. The streets around his home were full of children playing football. And from the very beginning, it was clear that young Ferenc had inherited something from his father that could not be taught. He was not tall. He was not physically powerful in any conventional sense. But his left foot was extraordinary. It was not simply strong. It was intelligent. It could place the ball into corners that defenders had no logical reason to concede. It could bend, drive, and finish with a precision that people who witnessed it struggled to put into words. By the age of 16, Puskás was already playing professional football. By 18, he had made his debut for the Hungarian national team. In 1949, the Hungarian government took control of his club, Puskás FC, converting it into the official army football team and renaming it Budapest Honvéd. Every player at the club was given a military rank. Puskás became a major, the Galloping Major, a nickname that would follow him for the rest of his life. At Honvéd, he dominated Hungarian football completely. He won the top scorer award in the Hungarian league 4 times. In 1948, he was named the top scorer in all of Europe. But what was unfolding at the national team level was something even more remarkable. During the early 1950s, Hungary assembled what many football historians still consider the greatest national team ever seen. Fast, creative, and technically brilliant, they played a style of football that the rest of the world had not encountered before. They called themselves the Magical Magyars. Between 1950 and 1956, this Hungarian team went undefeated for 32 consecutive matches. They won the Olympic gold medal in Helsinki in 1952. And then came the match that made the entire football world stop and pay attention. November 25, 1953. Wembley Stadium, London. Hungary versus England. At that time, England had never been beaten at home by a team from outside the British Isles. Wembley was considered sacred ground. England believed, with complete confidence, that they were the masters of the game they had invented. Hungary walked onto that pitch and took that belief apart piece by piece. The final score was 6-3. Puskás scored twice and was at the center of almost everything that went right for his team. The journalists watching that afternoon struggled to find language powerful enough to describe what they had seen. 6 months later, the two teams met again in Budapest. Hungary won 7-1. The message was impossible to misread. This team existed on a different level. And the 1954 World Cup in Switzerland was supposed to be the moment they proved it to the world. In the group stage, Hungary beat West Germany 8-3. They beat South Korea 9-0. They reached the final playing football that no other team could match. In the final, they faced West Germany again. The same team they had destroyed just weeks earlier. What happened next remains one of the most shocking results in World Cup history. West Germany won 3-2. The greatest team in the world went home without the trophy they had seemed destined to win. For Puskás and his teammates, it was a wound that never fully healed. But there was still time. There was still another World Cup ahead. The Magical Magyars were still together. The opportunity to finish what they had started still existed. Then 1956 arrived. And everything collapsed. In October of that year, the Hungarian people rose up against Soviet control in a revolution that sent shockwaves across the communist world. Ordinary citizens took to the streets. Soviet tanks moved in to crush them. The country was thrown into chaos and violence. At the time of the uprising, Puskas was in Spain with Hanvd, playing a European Cup match against Athletic Bilbao. He watched the news from abroad. He spoke with teammates. He weighed what was waiting for him back home. And then he made the decision that would change everything. He did not return. The consequences arrived immediately. The Hungarian Football Federation banned him and declared him a political defector. FIFA suspended him from all competitive football. In Hungary, the man who had been a national hero became, overnight, a symbol of betrayal in the eyes of the communist leadership. His wife Erzsébet and their daughter Anikó were still in Hungary when the revolution was crushed. Getting them out was dangerous, uncertain, and deeply frightening. The family's escape involved real risk, navigating a country under military occupation, separated from the man they were trying to reach. Puskas spent the following 2 years in a kind of football wilderness. He lived in Vienna. He moved between cities. He worked as an assistant coach at minor clubs, watching competitive football from the outside while the career he had built with such extraordinary effort seemed to dissolve around him. The stress took a physical toll. He gained significant weight. His body, which had carried him through hundreds of matches and thousands of goals, began to show the signs of inactivity and anxiety. He was 31 years old, banned, overweight, stateless, and then Real Madrid called. Real Madrid in 1958 were already the dominant force in European football. They had Alfredo Di Stéfano, arguably the most complete player in the world. They had Francisco Gento, one of the fastest wingers the game had ever seen. They were building something historic. And they wanted Puskas. To many observers, it seemed like an unnecessary gamble on a player whose best days were clearly behind him. Within months, it became clear that those observers had completely misjudged what they were watching. Puskas arrived at Real Madrid and did what almost no footballer in history has managed to do. He rebuilt himself. The weight came off. The sharpness returned. And then the goals started coming again, in numbers and with a quality that silenced every remaining doubt about whether the Galloping Major still had anything left to offer. Together, Puskas and Di Stéfano formed one of the most devastating partnerships club football has ever witnessed. Two extraordinary footballers who seemed to read each other's intentions before they had even formed, creating chances, finishing them, and making the best defenders in Europe look helpless in the process. The records fell one after another. In 8 years at Real Madrid, Puskas scored 242 goals in 262 appearances. He won the Spanish League 5 consecutive times. He won the European Cup 3 times. He was the top scorer in the Spanish League on 4 separate occasions. But the single performance that defines his time at Real Madrid came on May 18, 1960. The European Cup final at Hampden Park in Glasgow. Real Madrid against Eintracht Frankfurt. 127,000 people packed into the stadium that evening. What they witnessed over the next 90 minutes has never been forgotten by anyone who was there. Puskas scored 4 goals. Di Stéfano scored 3. Real Madrid won 7 goals to 3. Puskas had become the first player in European Cup history to score 4 goals in a single final. He was 33 years old. After becoming a Spanish citizen in 1961, he represented Spain at the 1962 World Cup, making him one of the very few players in history to have played international football for 2 entirely separate nations. He retired from playing in 1966. But football, as it so often does with those who love it deeply, refused to let him go entirely. He became a coach. He worked across Europe, South America, North America, the Middle East, and Australia. In 1971, he guided the Greek club Panathinaikos to the European Cup final, losing narrowly to a great Ajax side. In 1993, after nearly 4 decades away, Puskas finally returned to Budapest. Hungary welcomed him as the hero he had always truly been. In 2002, the national stadium in Budapest was renamed the Puskás Ferenc Stadium in his honor. 4 years later, on November 17, 2006, Ferenc Puskás passed away at the age of 79, after years of suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Today, his name reaches a new generation through the FIFA Puskás Award, given annually to the scorer of the most beautiful goal on the planet. But the award is only a small reflection of what he actually was. Across his entire career, Puskás scored over 800 goals in official matches. He dominated football in 2 countries across 2 separate eras, wearing the shirts of 2 different nations. He survived the Second World War. He survived communist dictatorship. He survived exile, suspension, and the slow dismantling of everything he had worked to build. And every single time he came back, with the same left foot, the same instinct, the same extraordinary, unstoppable gift. The Hungarian government once called him a traitor. History has a different word for him: legend. That was the story of Ferenc Puskás, banned, exiled, and still unstoppable. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe. The next legend is already waiting.